gotta stand up here. Just to see finish downloading. Bring your phone. Yeah.
Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program of Advancing the Cause. This program comes to you every Wednesday night from 18:30 hours to 20 hours. The official host of this program is the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AAMP and President of the Guyana Teachers Union. Honorable McDonald, because of duties of national importance and interest, could not have been on this program tonight, and therefore I tender an apology for her not being on the program tonight. My name is Dennis Jaikran, and I will be hosting the program tonight. As we would have been saying time and again, explaining how we come up with the topic to speak on, it is because of that interaction with our viewers across every region of this country, across ministries, and from the viewers that are listening out of Guyana, different countries, so to speak. And so, based on the submissions and interactions, there has been an agreed position that the topic for tonight would be systems falling apart. Let me repeat the topic for tonight: systems falling apart. In the discourse tonight, the program is going to touch on education matters, health matters, and some general issues. And so let us begin this program tonight by looking at some of the issues, burning issues across regions of this country as it relates to education. And so the first point, or the major areas in which we are going to discuss, the first point is the secondment of teachers and head teachers to the various departments of education and to units in the Ministry of Education. And so there has been complaints coming from not only the schools from which these teachers and head teachers were extracted and seconded to or placed in some places to the Department of Education and in units of the Ministry of Education. You can only conclude that the persons who are seconded, whether teacher or head teacher, and based on the feedback from our viewers and from those in the education system, at the level of the school, at the level of departments of education, and from the various units of the Ministry of Education. The performance of these head teachers and teachers who are seconded from their various schools, there's a clear indication that the worst of them would have been seconded. And when you enter into discussion with the ministry, officers of the Ministry of Education and other head teachers and teachers, you are told, or this program would have been told, that they were the laziest, so to speak, as their teachers and teachers. But because there is that relationship and that political affiliation too, and more so because those who are placed there, they are placed there in an effort to have control over them. And so what the system would demand of them while they are seconded to the departments of education and units of the Ministry of Education, they are going to do the work that is required of them, but not professional duties. And so it begs the question, how is it we are going to be promoting education in this country when such levels of discrimination as it relates to seconded persons, teachers and head teachers to the Department of Education, to so function? And so from reports, this program would have been told that those head teachers, or maybe not all, some of them and some of these teachers who would have been seconded, and as would have said early on, friends and relationships and political affiliation, but functionality as it relates to where they were placed, how they were placed, it is zero. Effectiveness and efficiency would have been zero. And not only that, a vacuum would have been left in those schools. And vacancies, not officially, would have been created. It is hard to understand not officially, but it means that they are not there. And so someone has to be performing such duties. And once there is this recognition that there is this, not this formal authority, because some other persons acted, and it gives credence to assumed authority, then to control or to manage those below, to cause them to be able to complete tasks and assignments, there is a difficulty. There is a difficulty in relating, and these are all feedbacks that this program would have received, to the Department of Education. And there's more confusion because in terms of seniority at these schools, in very many cases, not the most senior persons, are made to perform the duties in the absence of their teacher. And further, they are not proposed to be able for that acting appointment they're in. And so these are the challenges. And that is why the program tonight, the topic, systems falling apart. This is within a system, within a department, within a ministry. And this is only part of it as it relates to secondment of teachers and head teachers to the departments of education and units of the Ministry of Education. But if you go on secondment, it means that you have to be able now moving from the level of a teacher or the school system, so to speak, to the Department of Education, where you would be performing public servant duties. You ought to be able to perform as a public servant, and therefore your hours of work would be based on established hours of public servants working in the public system. That is another challenge herein. And these are all feedbacks as this program would have said to you earlier. And then the third challenge there would have been that it is difficult to write up that attendance register, teachers' attendance register, in terms of seniority. And there are very many discrepancies therein. So the Department of Education, the departments of education, those heads of departments of education should be able to guide. But these teachers and head teachers that are performing such duties are not given the guidance, especially in Region 2 from the Department of Education. Because it would have been reported that the register as written up, maybe they would have corrected it by now, is not written up in terms of seniority at the Department of Education in Region 2. It is an emotional thing there, where the Redo feels that the system should be placed based on an emotional thought of the Redo. And that is discriminatory. But you know, this program would have been saying, and this program is not bashing or beating any person or any officer. We speak the truth and we speak the facts. And so that is the first point as it relates to education. There are more things we talk about later on in the program as it relates to secondment. The second point on the education that this program would want to make has to do with what is referred to as the 10 days a month workers. Are they the question head teachers have been asking us on this program to ask the question? Education officers have been asking this program to ask the question. How are these persons categorized? They work 10 days for the month. What are their leave entitlements? What are the times in which, meaning the official time of signing in and signing out? What is the code of dress? And we're speaking here directly to education. We come to health later on. What are the entitlements as it relates to leave and leave taking? Whether you're in the public service and in the teaching service, let this program make it known. There's no written agreement as it relates to time off. It is conventional. But on the other hand, where you have leave entitlement, it is by law. But as it relates to time off, which is not stated nowhere in the public service rules or regulations or in anything, it is conventional. It is an agreed position. And mind you, from reports, these head teachers, rather these 10 days a month workers are given priority as it relates to time off. Head teachers and heads of Department of Education, they do not have a policy document, and this program is speaking based on what was told to the program by head teachers and education officers, heads of department. There is not a policy paper to so guide 10 days a week, month rather, workers as they relate to their functions in our nursery, primary, and secondary school. Head teachers have been complaining that they have been instructed, and we're talking across the country, by officers of the Department of Education to ensure that some of these 10 days a month workers function in the classrooms to teach or to deliver the curriculum they're in to our learners. This is an indictment, and a serious indictment. And you know, some time ago, this program said that during Education Month, the Department of Education Region 2 awarded a 10 days a month worker for being the best of something in a particular school. This is a shame and disgrace of the education system. Coming back to the topic, systems falling apart. But there's a situation at a particular primary school in Region 2. And we get these situations from other schools across this country. And you cannot expect better from this head teacher of the, and it is not bashing the head teacher, because there's something called preparedness for administrative positions. And this head teacher would have been promoted administratively to this particular primary school. And from feedback from the parents that something went wrong with a learner of that particular primary school. And this program was told that that inquiry or investigation, as directed by the administratively appointed head teacher of that school, directed a 10 days a month worker to investigate. as told to this program that when that would have been done, the 10 days a month worker ensured that the parent, the mother of that child, had what is referred to a tongue lashing situation from that 10-day a month worker in the presence of the head teacher. This is an indictment. This is an indictment. This is an indictment, and there is need for somebody. But you don't expect some of these departments of education, their heads, redos to look at it. You don't expect, especially Region 2. And so this program thought it fit to bring that to the attention of our viewers. Some time ago, it may be a year ago, and parents remember these things. And parents look at this program. And parents give feedback to this program. Head teachers, education officers give feedback to this program. Persons from the regional democratic councils of the 10 administrative regions of this country, they give feedback. And so this program is well informed. This program is making that point to indicate that some time ago on this program, maybe a year ago, as I said early on, that the information given was that at a particular primary school, and this program would try not to name the school, that there was a functioning thrift society. And we will not go to explain what it means, but it was very beneficial, so to speak, starting from the nursery school, primary, and when these learners would have reached to secondary to write CSEC, they accumulated a sum of money to be able to assist themselves and the parents to pay for the subjects that they wanted to write for CSEC. But this is the situation that at that particular primary school, $7 million from the Thrift Society disappeared. But in each of these schools, a teacher, a committee, or something is responsible. And in this particular school, that teacher that would have been responsible then for, and maybe you can conclude, maybe responsible for, suggestively, the shortage of $7 million from the Thrift Society. And information to this program would suggest that his teacher would have retired since. And while some of the learners would have received sums of money, and some are still to receive information to this program, the question is, when would this person who would have retired start paying? The parents are asking this program to ask the question given the scenario. the absence of the $7 million from the Thrift Society. This is a serious matter. And the regional education officer of Region 2 should seek to find out which is that school, which government official may have paid that money so that these learners could have received, and to cause that particular retired teacher to repay the $7 million because it is taxpayers' money. This REDO needs to follow up on issues. And so this program would wish to speak directly, as requested by the parents of that particular primary school. They are not so much concerned about the learners not getting or would have received. They are concerned that taxpayers' money would have been given to the school or paid to the children, the learners rather. But who is it? The question is asked, what is being done so that that teacher who would have been responsible for the disappearance, the absence of that $7 million from the Thrift Society to repay taxpayers' money. Next point. Since the beginning of this school term, second term in the academic year 2025-2026, there is across this country a serious increase of violence in school. And it cuts across learners and teachers, learners and parents, parents and teachers. In different regions, things happen differently. Some are reported, some are not. Some are swept under the carpet by these regional education officers because they do not want to be called to answer for their stewardship. And if you are protecting wrongdoings and you do not want to be called for reporting your stewardship, then you are a waste of time. And that is not good. That is why the topic, I come back to that, or rather the program comes back to that. Systems falling apart. And so there is a wider situation as it relates to violence in school. This program would have been reliably informed that the Minister of Education, who is a total waste of a time, doesn't fit that position, making statements that are not relevant to how to curb violence in schools. It is not a one-shot something. You have to build. Minister of Education, it might be good if you stop behaving the way you are behaving in terms of being so hostile, and listen to our teachers and their teachers. They have a plan. The parents have a plan. And so there is need for collaboration strong PTAs, interdepartmental management of issues, including the police and the welfare. Well, those two are two dead ends, police and the school welfare system. This program is going to talk about the police later on. We want to touch on that. And so there is need for an extensive program. Those people who are sociologists, psychologists, social workers, I want to make mention of the school's welfare system, but that is a total failure. Our head teachers and our parents who have experience, and our students' government. And mind you, some people, when I say students' government, they might want to say that this is politics. It is not. Conventionally, you refer to the students' body as the student government. And so once you collaborate and include these levels of people, then something is going to come out. What is the role of the church? What is the role of community leaders? What is the role of the regional democratic councils across this country? To spend taxpayers' money wildly and without any cause or reason, to discriminate against people, and you have maybe the best forces who are not part of a system that can deliver? Are we engaging? We are not engaging, and we stick to that one stereotype, transfer these students, learners who need help. You do not do that. You help these learners. You help our teachers. You help our parents. How many parents' conference would have been held? That is an indicator internally that the departments of education can work out so that you have that feedback and you are building relationship. Let this program say something to a particular school. Maybe last week there was a PTA meeting, and I'm commending the head teacher of that school. The head teacher says that dress code is in effect. I'm not going to call, this program is not going to call out the name of the school. But once that would have been said, this program was pleased and satisfied, despite the fact that that particular head teacher was pitchforked into the position as administratively appointed. We are not going to deal with that administratively appointed situation. This program ran. So that is the missing link as it relates to violence in our schools. In Region 2, there are allegations that there are not enough of expected from the school's welfare system because these school welfare officers' allegations that they are too busy with catering for activities and events. And in some cases, their spouses are busy through them to get work done with public address system and music. And on the other hand, that in-laws of some of them are doing catering. And in one particular school in a particular region where the teacher was so harassed by students, by learners, that head teacher is so busy with catering, part of the group of the Department of Education in the particular region. These things this program is saying because they all lead to violence in our schools. And let us don't be petty as it is. Deal with the issue. In dealing with issues, you might be mashing, so to speak, or walk on the toes of persons. But if it has to happen, then it is better it happen to correct a major situation, to avoid the system falling apart. So that is in brief as it relates to violence in school. Some time ago, this program also made mention of a sum of maybe 15, 16, not recalling the amount of money, but it would have been about 12 to $15 million stated as payment to be made in a particular year, maybe 2023 or 24, for rental of buildings under education in Region 2. And when this program spoke about that, it raised concern with taxpayers of this country and persons across this country. Different regions called to this program to ask that this program repeats, so to speak, the scenario because it is happening in other areas, and ask why is it the Auditor General, the Office of the Auditor General, did not make mention of that 12 or 15 million dollars for payment of rental for buildings or a building in Region 2 on the education delivery. The regional education officer should be held accountable for that. And taxpayers are asking that the Office of the Auditor General, being aware of that situation, if they go back to the estimates for 2023 or 24, to see that it is stated there, and to name the building, to ask, to say what is the purpose or what would have been the purposes, so to speak, of renting that building, and who would have been the beneficiaries of that payment. Taxpayers' money this program is talking about. It is not bashing. It is pointing out that there are indictments as it relates to taxpayers' money and to account for taxpayers' money. Some time ago again, this program made mention, another indictment, where this program reported based on information received that during the last week or maybe the last 2 weeks of the conclusion of the academic year 2024-2025, which should have been the August term, 2025, that a particular nursery school head teacher was not in school during that period. And since this program made mention of that, And since parents of that particular nursery school would have heard about that, they also, as taxpayers, are asking, why is it the regional education officer of Region 2 continues to cover for this and other head teachers as it relates to this situation? Further, this program was so advised that in the first week of this term, meaning the Easter term 2026, that this same head teacher of this nursery school did not report for duty sometime during the first week. Maybe not the first day, second day, or third day. That is also an indictment. And the regional education officer should be placed before the Public Service Commission for covering up wrongdoings. You see, if these regional, some of them, regional education officers are not put before the Public Service Commission so that disciplinary action can be taken, we would continue to go down. And more particularly, Region 2, the education system, it is the worst in all its time. You know this, the host of this program, once upon a time used to be a regional education officer. And there's a board, I understand, with names of regional education officer at the Department of Education. And thereafter, the hosts of this, they are questionable in terms of performance of that is not bringing down them. As it is, this is the worst of it. Worst of it. Right? So that this program would need to. Taxpayers are asking questions. And if taxpayers are asking questions, then this program needs to bring it out. And then the last point on education, maybe we come back later on in the night. Last point. Again, the failure of the Office of the Auditor General. There is a massive mini store, massive, look at comparison, massive mini store. So viewers, you can picture that. Located at the Department of Education, without any storekeeper, managed and controlled by the regional education officer. Never one day audited. Never one day received the attention of the internal auditors and stock verifiers in the region. But in the absence of a storekeeper, how is it items requested, ISRs, and how the issuing, if there are ISRs written up? I hope the Redo knows what it means by ISRs. ISRs can only have credence when there are proper records and a storekeeper. This is where state money, funds, and properties are not accounted for. This program, based on information received, is now calling out the Office of the Auditor General because it is taxpayers' money, and the willy-nilly way in which items are handed without any records, the regional education officer of Region 2 should be held accountable. Minister of Education, Chief Education Officer, Deputy Chief Education Officer. We come into the Deputy Chief Education Officer, who this program, would have been told that there would have been a cover-up of an indiscipline act by some relative of that deputy chief allegations of that deputy chief education officer, a close relative that was covered up allegedly by the deputy chief education officer administration. If the minister of education is listening, don't get hype up, don't get hostile. These are things that would help you. You need help. You need a lot of help, minister. This program is helping you. This program is helping you. Maybe you can offer the host of this program a good sum of money to advise you on certain issues. So we conclude at this time, education matters. We come back to it because we are going to allow taxpayers of this country to know that your monies are not properly accounted for and spent. Oh, by the way, we said we concluded. This is one. Viewers would have asked also for a report, and we can't give a report on this program, but we are talking to the matter. That the Aurora Secondary School dorms was out of commission for the last 9 months of 2025. This program is going to speak about that based on allocation. They have, I think it's 100 and something. Later on, we have the budget here for all of them, the region. That school was out of commission, the dorms rather, for the last 9 months of 2025. Earlier in the year 2000, there were appropriations made under 6292 line item dietary for so many students, learners living in the dorms. So if they were not there for the last 9 months of 2025, a number of things could have happened. One, and Redo, this is information for you. This is knowledge. This program is aware that you don't know. There's something called savings. And once you recognize as head of Department of Education or any program manager would have recognized that there is saving under a particular line item, you can ask for something called environment. And that is to assist maybe at a parallel line item or another line item based on justification. But you don't have that. No program manager has that right to move money like that. There's a process. And the question now, and we conclude education after asking this question, and showing right now again an indictment on the part of the regional education officer for maybe suggestively causing misappropriation of taxpayers' money. What would have happened to the savings on the 6292 dietary? as it relates particularly to the dorms at the Aurora Secondary School being out of commission during the last 9 months of 2025. So this program now concludes education. We turn our attention to health matters. And we come back and restart health matters by saying to the public, taxpayers of this country, because they would have listened carefully, would have reminded this program, and would have advised this program that there's an addition to what this program spoke about early on, sometime last year. And that is to say that when this program reported sometime last year of this situation, later on in the year, there was an addition to that situation. And this is the situation that the Department of Health allegations and Auditor General Office of the Auditor General stop sleeping and be able to verify that taxpayers' money as appropriated by the National Assembly, that those sums of money are properly accounted for. Verification as it relates to how it would have been spent, for the verification to justify the items and the projects. So this is the point. There are allegations that a very close relative to a very senior Department of Health employee in Region 2 would have been provided service through the rental of a minibus and the village would have been given the name of the village at a cost of $500,000 per month, $500,000 for one minibus, paid to a close relative, allegedly, of a very senior Department of Health worker in Region 2. Later on, there was an addition of the rental of another minibus, but this time an employee allegations of the Department of Health, a close friend of a senior Department of Health employee in Region 2, now providing the services of the rental of another minibus for $500,000 per month. A number of questions taxpayers would have asked this program to put. One, was there an audited account for this? Two, knowing if that would have been true, that this would have been the situation, was there public advertisement for provision of this service or these services? The third question is, how involved would have been the Regional Health Committee? Question number 4 would have been, were there appropriations? Or if there were no appropriations, so these are all indictments. And so somebody from the Department of Health in Region 2 should answer to this. because it is not their money, it is taxpayers' hard-earned money. And to spend it like that, but by the way, taxpayers are asking also the Minister of Health, the Auditor General, and whoever is concerned that there should be a serious investigation as it relates to that complex somewhere between Golden Fleece and Colin, where a big complex, industrial complex is, and there are allegations that the owner of that complex is a senior health employee of Region 2. Match that investment, match that business against the salaries that senior employee of the Department of Health and the spouse of that senior employee of the Department of Health. And when you put that together, look at, these are all investigations that taxpayers are asking to happen, and stop sweeping wrong things under the carpet. It is not helping the system. And that is why the system or systems are falling apart, because of the level of accountability. Now there's another situation. This program was reliably informed. So we come off of that rental story where 2 minibuses are rented by the Department of Health Region 2 allegedly. One service provided by an employee of the Department of Health, and another service provided by a close relative of a senior health officer, health official of the Department of Health. And to state, this program would wish to state that the rental of these services, these 2 minibuses, the rental is not necessary because the Department of Health in Region 2 has adequate transportation, vehicles, so to speak, to take care of that. This program is here calling out the Regional Health Committee, the Regional Administration, the Auditor General, the Minister of Health, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health. Stop covering up these matters. There are allegations that the Esquivel Funeral Home is managed by a management committee far removed from any government affiliation. Just to say that based on allegations that it is a privately run organization by a board that is registered by the Friendly Society or under the cooperatives, whichever one. And so these things are happening. That repairs, maintenance, extension are paid for by the Department of Health Region 2. The vehicles that are used are properties of the state, the state. We are bringing this program is bringing to say that it is privately run, managed, but the state resources are used. Utility bills, whatever it might be, like water, are paid. The employees there are paid. These are all allegations, but the Auditor General must find this out. And if you go to the budget, the estimates for this year, and you check there as it relates to staff in details, it might very well be that it can come out there. But you have to scrutinize this thing properly, and you would see what is happening. And so that is, based on allegation, a privately managed own funeral home. But the state is facilitating all these payments. The question is, how many times that facility would have been audited and that is the question. The second question is, the sums of money generated from that facility, what is being used for? Because taxpayers should be made to know these things. Accountability of state funds, because the state is paying for a privately managed and owned organization, employees, maintenance, repairs, extension, utility bills, employment bill, and all these kinds of things. And so these are questions that Auditor General, Office of the Auditor General, I understand in Region 2, the Office of the Auditor General has about 10 or 12 of these employees, none of which vacancies would have been advertised anytime. That is another story. We talk about vacancies not being advertised, but being filled by that situation. Now, there is an allegation, a very serious allegation. When autopsies are being performed, allegations, and the police are so involved that there is a certain report that has to be submitted. And that report is supposed to be very confidential and to move from officials of government to officials of government. But there's an allegation which says that the police reports are so given to a so-called businessman that is operating somewhere in adventure to be transmitted to a government official. You see what is happening? It is supposed to be from a government official, which is the police, to another government official from the Ministry of Health. But there are allegations that there is a middleman who is a private man operating a so-called businessman, a business somewhere in adventure that is facilitating this process. This is an indictment, and a serious indictment. Very serious indictment. And this program is going to speak to these things. This program is not going to stop speaking about these things because they are all very, very important to taxpayers. So that is about the funeral home, the autopsy, and the reports and what have you. Attention has now been turned to another allegation as it relates to the Department of Health. In Region 2, that this same senior Department of Health employee, who is the person responsible for creating employment through rental of minibuses, who it is alleged has this big industrial site, is the supplier of goods and services to the Department of Health in Region 2 as it relates to the Oscar Joseph Cottage Hospital, the Lima Regional Hospital, the Public Hospital, sorry, and other supplies. This here is an infraction. It goes against the grain. It goes against public service regulation that you cannot be an employee and a supplier of the same facility, maybe any facility at the same time. But the allegation further would say that there is further denial of this senior health worker, employee, who is saying that another person, but there are allegations that it is done through the name of that person. Health system in serious trouble. Health system. The ration store at Public Hospital Study, Auditor General this program based on allegations that the records are not in order. And the stock verifier, allegations again, that would go to do work based on state payment. And we said allegations early on, is so compromised that the books are fixed and fixed in such a way that it is covering up, or these records are covering up indictment and infractions. Office of the Auditor General, there is need for an investigation to be done, as happened last year. And these allegations are that there should be an account for items moved from Public Hospital Study to the regional Lima Regional Hospital. 2 questions, 3 questions. 1, was a record made of these items as would have left there? Are these same items delivered to Lima Regional Hospital? And the 3rd question is, if items were collected there from Public Hospital, sorry, were these items delivered to Lima Regional Hospital? These are all questions and investigation that taxpayers are asking the Office of the Auditor General to get involved in, because the system of the stores, the ration stores at Public Hospital Study is questionable. And there are allegations that the administrator there, the hospital, is a retiree. And the grounds of re-employment, these are all allegations. The grounds of re-employment for that employee, that retiree, is because there is somebody that lives in that home that this administrator, retired administrator, is living in, still going to school. Is that a reason irrational for re-employment? As weak as it is, the systems are falling apart, because any request without the necessary verification is granted. It's granted, and that is not so. That should not be so. So the ration store, and what is happening? The ration store at Lyman at Regional Hospital, Lima Regional Hospital. It is not located in Lima. This program is going to talk about, again, as it relates to where it is located, how names are attached based on if you move from one location to another, and how is it a minute plot of land would have been given for large acreage of lands in region 4 and in region 4 by a private individual arrangement. But that is going to be dealt with. Items are still to be accounted for. Next point. At the Oscar Joseph Cottage Hospital. And here again, the Office of the Auditor General is sitting idly by and not accounting for taxpayers' resources. Despite the fact it is known that these items, and this program is making the assumptions based on the information given, that these items are still to be recovered, accounted for, Oscar Joseph Hospital. Two points would be made in what? Recently, at the opening of the Lima Regional Hospital, a number of persons would have had training at least 4 weeks before being employed. 90% of those were not adequately qualified or not qualified at all. But there is one area in which it is very important to point out, because taxpayers would have recognized it, that there's a certain pharmacy assistant without any experience, without any qualifications, would have gained employment at Lima Regional Hospital. Taxpayers are complaining that the dispensation of medical supplies or items to patients are mistaken, allegation, because the person does not know, can hardly read, so to speak, write and spell, allegations. But you employ somebody like that, put them in a situation like that, and persons are made to suffer. And then when this happens, there is total denial. Somebody must take the responsibility. And some patient must take bold responsibility of challenging this situation in the court of laws of this country. We have to stop doing the wrong thing. We have to stop employing persons who are not adequately or not at all qualified or in any way trained for those positions, especially that position of pharmacy assistant that same pharmacy assistant that is now employed at Lima Regional Hospital. But you have to give kudos to some people. And so the people or the persons there in that pharmacy, the dispensary, so to speak, would have complained bitterly of the insanity or how the place is very insanitary to operate in. There's a sink, they would have said. The employees reported that. This program must be fair also to say who reported that. We're not saying it is not allegation reported to. That's the area stinks, so to speak. And there's a sink that stinks so much that patients who go there, this is a report from the pharmacy assistant and those who work here, stinks so much that the people have to cover their nose there when they go there. And this hospital is not 1 year old as yet. So two things. The pharmacists, they are complaining about, and especially the pharmacy assistant, complaining bitterly about the conditions. Stink, they said, to this program. And they made reference to the sink. They can go and check it. And then there is evidence that there are 3 containers set in a particular area to receive water that flows whenever it rains. So to conclude, it is saying leaking roofs, bad ceiling, and it is going to damage the flow. These are all that they consider new buildings, not 1 year old as yet. There are further allegations that the hospital is surrounded by septic tanks. And there is no drainage for the escape water from the septic tank. The design phase of that thing would have been done early on, but there were changes to satisfy other persons and conditions. And that is why these things are happening as they are in terms of the stinkness, so to speak, coining a word, leaking roofs, many defects as complained or made mention of by the health care providers who are there, complaining bitterly of the conditions they are working in, especially those in the pharmacy dispensary area. And the unqualified, not qualified. Oh, here it comes. If you look on your screen, you see what we are talking of. Those are the containers there. And if you look carefully, you see water that would have escaped from because they are so filled and flowing on the floor there. This is Lima Regional Hospital, viewers. A building that is not yet 1 year old. And this program is providing the evidence. This is the evidence. And so when we talk about conditions of buildings, we are not spewing, so to speak, things that are not true and correct. And the evidence is before all of us tonight. The containers are there. And if you look carefully, that there's a gas cylinder next to those containers, which is a very serious fire hazard. But we are going to talk about fire and fire service on another program that is there. So thank you very much, dear operator. You can have it there. So we move to the general issues as we try to conclude this program. Issue number 1. General issues number 1. Sometime last month, there was an accident in Region 2. We are giving you the scenario so you see discrimination and taking of sides, so to speak. And so within 24 hours of the death or the accident, we are not talking death, accident, and this is no allegation, the regional commander of Region 2 and 8 officers in the same clothing, let me rephrase that. Let this program rephrase that. In khaki clothing, all appearing to be of his ilk, visited the home in company with, again, 3 persons of the religious faith in Guyana, major religious faith, the Hindu, Muslim, and same ilk, to give support without recognizing that the person who is accused of causing the accident also needed that kind of counseling. But it is taking sides. And it is happening because who is involved? This is an indictment, Commandant. You need to correct that. You are paid by taxpayers of this country, and fairness is the order of the day. But this program is going to talk later on about the conduct of your traffic policemen, because they come under your charge, and the discriminatory way in which they do things. And these things should not be swept under the carpet. Taxpayers should come out boldly and speak. And this program is going to continue. But let us go back. And so the commandant led a team to the home to maybe give comfort or what have you. But what happened with the person that is being accused of causing this accident? Is he not a human being? Is this not one-sided? But the same commandant should answer the question. The question is, what is the age of persons to be given driver's license? That is the first question the commandant should tell the public. And the second thing that he should tell the public, this is not bashing the commandant. The second thing that the commandant should say, if any person is below the age of illegal age to have a license, if there is not need for that person to be accommodated or accompanied by a person with a authorized driver's license. So, in brief, that is what this program is going to say about that. You know, we conclude now. 3 minutes more, we conclude. This program would have been saying time and again, repeatedly, of this unauthorized and many unauthorized mechanical workshop in residential area, causing noise, dust, and chemical pollution. And the GRA would have been written to blind eye, closed ears. NIS would have been written to blind eyes, closed ears. GPL would have been written to as it relates to assumedly illegal use of electricity. Taxpayers would have to bear that burden. Blind eyes, closed ears. The Ministry of Labor, the Labor Department, not looking at personal protective gear that these persons operating these workshops ought to have, and the specifications or certification of these workshops. These things are not happening. I am saying these things because I know, or this program knows about it. And the Environmental Protection Agency, that across this country, persons are complaining about the mismanagement, the discriminatory way in which the Environmental Protection Agency is treating with matters, spending taxpayers' money to traverse across this country without doing what is required of that agency. And this program is bringing it again to the attention of the public so that persons who suffer at the hands of the EPA should make their voices known, as this program is helping persons to bring out their views and to say of the discriminatory way in which the Environmental Protection Agency is treating with matters. But for them to know through this program, they are paid by taxpayers of this country, not to sit idly by, but to do what is expected of them. Viewers, I think we had an excellent program from our end. What is being said to us, excellent program, and persons are saying, viewers are saying that they would continue to submit to this program information that is necessary. Let us extend to you gratitude and thanks for your submissions as it relates to issues, and ask that you continue to submit your issues so that this program can air them. Thank you very much. Have a good night, and may God bless you.